Bo chenamba kangala ngadu dele shujita teni te jesu teni chitanga chenamba tambe chu gola hyo teni tambe chu nyembala chu nyembata teni nyamslembe ke chirzola pepala pe kadinche tashidele hyo yanla teni te ya ngarang ngoni na tujita chila mixar ke kaya yo marite Yinaya ta ngarang ke hejute tambe chu ta de nang ne mixal to teni hira che paru to chimba hyugi ware la teni de la pe chenamba pepa chamla pe sonam chimbo kalba zangbo yore teni de ndoi na ne song na ta meche ke ta tambe chu nyamslen tambe la tu samsebe sanne je la ngandro gugudu samne kambachei por tene kambachei por ne de jesu garchin da bonte ne rojo majung na tela sonam je pumbo yore besena tela ya sonam seme ba yore tinde song yore la sonam seme ba yebe junsen de kandi jiresena 당보 근홍 제버진지 지네 디게 사변동 보차데 센지된도 야바인 비처나 디니데 노기 마홍발라 고니콘든 펠네 다투근데부 톱지인 비처나 대용 선음 첨보인 버송하려라 디니 단다 대점마이바 제넘바베 가와지 가히 사라림보다 가히 레가 갈침보된주 유니 디니 담비주 셈바다 담비주 냠슬렘베게 쳇도 페발라베 sonam chenpo yeba ala tini kawata trowaji naruchi.
First of all, Rinpoche would like to wish everyone good morning. And after that, he would like to thank you all for coming here with faith and interest to listen to the Dharma. Rinpoche says that he doesn't have any great compassion or any great blessings to give, but the Dharma that he will be teaching, this Heart Sutra, is an important text to study. It is important to study this, and so it is very fortunate and very wonderful that you all have had the opportunity to come here this morning. This is a very great fortune. It is as said by the Buddha. There was the Buddha said that if someone started to want to hear the Dharma and then took one step, and then yet after taking one step, if some sort of difficulty or problem arose and that person were unable to actually go and listen to the Dharma, is there still merit in that? And actually, yes, there is merit in that. There is an immeasurable amount of merit in this. And the reason there is because that person has formed the intention to study the Dharma and started to go there and taken that with that intention, started to act upon that intention. And this, even though they do not actually at that point listen to the Dharma, at this point they have that faith and devotion that is the seed that will eventually bring them to the ultimate liberation. And so this is a very great merit indeed. Now you all are not like that. Actually, you all have, many of you have come from very difficult places. Many of you have put aside important jobs in order to come here. And so you have come here. This is a very great merit for you to have done so, and you are very fortunate indeed. So now, please be excited and enthusiastic.
Tene tate jesu namjin tardo dojin chongtoma sonde chayin denkrela tene ti kapsala savelama to jipelama tangchela tepatom mugujini soata narochi.
And following this, as usual, we will recite the Dorje Chang lineage prayer. And as we do so, please generate faith and devotion in the root and lineage lamas. Dorje Chang Lo.
Tene ta tanda jerdo ngaransoge jenanambege chembatardo hiraji parudo timbe nimbo ta te hyugre la tene te ya jitange ngaranso nangpa sanjibe dambi chujung de sena ta tanda zobu sonji jamden de ji ngusu sumbe kadang tene ta tela kepa tong chutu tong chi chi sumbe tenju de namba niso yebe na ne ta tanda zawa de ta hiraji paru tu tsumbe nimbo de tanda sanji jamden de chi sumbe kai onto seba je ta tene relba de tanda kepa tong chutu tong chi chi sumbe tenju onto seba je la tene ta telaya sanji jamdende ji jitang kai ong de sena tene sanji jamdende ji kan kolorimba somdo korwaran ze pare tene te ya ka tongbo dembai gi chujin kolo tene parba seni mebe chujin kolo tama labor number zi chujin kolo te ta jitang ong de sena sanji jikala chujin kolorimba som ko na yoare.
So as you all know, we are today going to be beginning the discussion of the Heart Sutra. Now, in general, in the Buddhist teachings, there are two types of teachings. There are the actual words of the Buddha that the Buddha actually spoke, the word of the Buddha. And then there are also the treatises that were composed by all the Mahasiddhas, all the great practitioners and scholars since then. And so, of the teaching that we will be going through today, the root, the sutra itself, the root is the actual words of the Buddha. And the commentary is included in the set of treatises composed by the great Mahasiddhas and so forth. And so here, now also when we talk about the actual words of the Buddha, we talk about the 3 different turnings of the wheel of Dharma. And so there are 3 different turnings of the wheel of Dharma, or the 3 different wheels of Dharma, are first the wheel of the 4 truths. The second wheel is the wheel of no characteristics. And the third wheel is the wheel that the wheel of how should I say that? Wheel of good differentiation. And so we have these 3 different wheels of Dharma. And of these 3 different wheels of Dharma, this sutra falls into the second wheel, the wheel of no characteristics.
Tene ta telaya ka thangboda tene ka parbata ka thamala ta susu thomo maimbe chechure nang yore la ta te aturza susu kalbata tambar tambe chuchun kolo korna re te yinaya tene ka kolo thangboda ka kolo parba galde pandabota ka kolo parbata ka thama kolo thamani galde pandabo 다 텐데 가야 요 말이라 테네 테 예나야 수수 곰바테 토모마인 파레 요레 테 예나야 테 제기제라 갈데 반다보다 제기제란 데르바메 반다보 텐데 말이라 테네 테 가수수 라 토모마인 비치슈 예바다 깡콜로 텐주 제기제란 데르바이에 바다 제기제란 갈다메 바다 텐데 넘반다보 요레.
And so these 3 wheels of Dharma are all different in that they were spoken, all have their own, they all have their own particular features because they were all taught in accord with the needs of different types of disciples. And so for each different type of disciple, there was a different style of teaching in each of the wheels of Dharma. However, this doesn't mean that there are any contradictions or that there are no connections between the different wheels of Dharma. The first wheel and the second wheel, it's not as if there is a contradiction or lack of connection between the first wheel and the second wheel, nor is it as if there is a contradiction or a lack of connection between the second wheel and the third wheel. Rather, there are connections. There is no contradiction between any of the wheels of the Dharma. They were taught specifically for the needs of different students, and so they have their own particular features. But there are connections between the first wheel and the second wheel, and there are no contradictions there. And in the same way, there are connections between the second and third wheel, and there are not any contradictions.
Tene tateya tati kapche tanto te kaparpa seni mepe korne rela tene kaparpa seni mepe chuchu kolote tene ne chage pumbiro la ta parar chewate sumba imba cheita tene ta telaya shershin la shershin jepata shershin rimbota shershin dupa la sopa tene yumsi chudin sena do desen mandawa chudin yeba cheita tene te yons trapa tarna tene tanda yum jendin du somse ta yum jeba te hirachi paru tsamba ta halokam bom yebichenam bom tene yum rimbo te la hirachi paru tsamba nyechang atongpa se haloka tini tang tongcha nga yeba cheita tene yum dupage onto se na hirachi paru tsamba ji tongpa se tene tanda Haloka Tonta Ji Pate, that in the Resuto Pinsane, that Hiraji Parutus, but Jepa, Duba, Nambana, Sopa, your la, Tinite, that Jagan Poppy, Yodia, Tepe, Kalchimpo Noah, now in Bajeta, Tinite, Peto, Journey, Tinions, Tarve Capsulaya, Taje. Tanda Kahige, Cheni Jagoni Tena Papata, Tene Kahige Tela, Kupata, courtesy Pigoni, that Tena Papa La Sopa, Tene Hiraji Parut, but the Bay Kalchimbo, now you are it.
So this sutra today belongs to the second wheel of Dharma, the wheel of no characteristics. Now, the sutras of the Wheel of No Characteristics are primarily taught in the noble land of India at a place called Vulture Peak Mountain. So they're primarily taught at Vulture Peak Mountain, or mainly taught there. And there are many different sutras in this collection of sutras. There are the extensive sutras and the moderate length sutras and the middle length sutras, and then the concise sutras. And so in many different sutras on transcendent full knowing, on the mother transcendent full knowing, or prajna paramita. And so as is well known, there are primarily three main sutras on transcendent full knowing, prajna paramita. And these are what are called the extensive, middle, and concise mother. And so there is the extensive mother, of 100,000 verses. And this is the sutra on transcendent full knowing, prajna paramita, in 100,000 verses. And then there is also the middle length mother, middle length mother in 25,000 verses. And so this is a medium length sutra. It has 25,000 different shlokas or verses. And then there is the concise sutra, which is in 8,000. So the concise mother in 8,000 verses. And so we have this is an 8,000 verse sutra on the transcendent full knowing. And so in this way we have these three sutras, the extensive, middle length, and concise mothers, which are considered to be very important. They were considered to be extremely important in the noble land of India. And then later, when they were translated into Tibetan, they were also considered to be an extremely important texts. And they were considered to be important texts to study in order to become learned. And they were also considered important texts to pay respects to. So in this way, there are two different ways that they were considered important.
Tene tate yon pela tomara juru kapsala tene jalbote sonte sinki jinda sene jur tene ti kapsala pecha ni ta yom hira ti paru tu simba jepe on tu sena pecha ni jongarela rizik marbota rizik nombo sinki jongarela rizik marbo on tu sena tene ti yom hira ti paru tu simba bomde jur charwata tene salge tine sege tine teni pote te marbo ti na la jalbo tson de rang asanam ji tsu so pe chetolo korang tho te silo teni ti ge ya salge na wa teni tho se ne teni hiraje paru de tsamba ti tripatela rizik marbo sinki te ta teni te je so rizik mombo sinki ti triarela rizik mombo te teni tanda ya jalbo rang sanam ji tsu so pe chetolo teni ota so tiga talate nasaga nang to sene tripatela rizik mambo se ta te tangbo hiraji paru tsimba tariyong kapsala tinde se tine tene tela je sonam chi tsu so pe chetala jabu khorange tene luge chahi ne tide manam tap ta tinde nawarela tene te jendo chiso tariyong kapsala sajala yena tene tanda yoarela pot chaluma se bon pot juni te pot te la tine te pe chembo tene pot chembo tene dog lunta dane dog along lunta dane ta ya patanda tanda yang sajala yosarela tetabo tene pot januma se ta tela ngaranso te tombichu senkinta tombichu la kuba jenkin tenzuge tene heraji paru tsimbala tsikuruta kukurugi chita ta tende yimbiga lojunda bota tende yen na yore
Resik sana. Resik.
Resik sina sindi da bu yisabra. Resik. Resik.
Yeah. When the extensive sutra was translated into Tibetan, it was sponsored by the Dharma king Trisong Detsen. And Trisong Detsen had two copies of this made, or two copies of it written down. And these two copies, one was called the red copy, and the other was called the blue copy. And so the red copy is called the red copy because it was written in red ink. Now, in this red ink, the king Trisong Detsen, in order to increase his own merit, in order to gather the accumulation of merit, he mixed some of his own blood into the ink that was used to copy this sutra down. And so then he mixed his blood into the ink, and then the sutra was written down in this red ink that had his blood mixed in. And so this is the red copy. And then the second copy that was made is the blue copy. Now, in the blue copy, the king Trisong Detsen took some of his hair, and he mixed the ashes of his hair into the ink that was used to copy down this sutra. And so in this way, it was written in blue ink that had bits of his hair in it. And so this is how he, these are the first two copies that he sponsored, the red copy that written with ink with his own blood, and the blue copy written with ink with his own hair in it, that he sponsored. And these were he did this in order to gather the accumulation of merit. So these are the first two copies. And following this, the sutra then spread throughout Tibet. And as it spread throughout Tibet, there was one copy that was made of it in a single, very large volume. Generally, it's a 15-volume work, but there was one copy that was made in a single, very large and extensive volume. And then there are also the copies that were, and this volume is probably still extant today. There probably is a place where it is. And so there is this volume, and then there are also the copies of it in 15 different volumes. And so in this way, the work was spread throughout Tibet.
Tene ta tejendo chiso tarwe kapsula ya ta chitang ngaranso tombe chuji pa tomchi ji tene kahiga ta jaw kanjur Rinpoche kahiga bompo tjuni kahiga yom jendin dusum ta tende lebong ke nambala yone tene te rang chimla nyar tene te la pudon metodon marmela so chepa pol tende chege yorela tene te sususenum je tsu tsu pchetel chesena pecha poti che ya ti dan don la puji par te kupa ke le kanda bo mondi sondra che yore te yinaya ten uni gi se on te sena mondi chang yo mare tene te ta sanje jam tin te ji tarwa tong tong jin be komon to be lam tomo ma impache song yorela tene ti sumba te sunrap yigi risuti ne ta yupa te la lobjong se te nyamlin se na mahon par tene ngaranso sanje ta changju sembe kompon topju ya pate tene tige sunrap tige singla tong nuba la tene yongju ya pate la tene yesa ta kurte tu kuba che pate sonam ju tsu so pe joda tene rang tene tepa tong kuba pelu ge joyin be cherna ta tene nangi warela. Tini yang kap-kapla, tini ta tanda perna ta rang susu ge hirap ge tsal tong tempa ta. Tini hidup tong tempa yina, ta do tenzo tenda la labjong si. Tini tenzo la tusam si. Tenzo gombi nyamsa long ni, nyamsa lengi warela. Yang te tabu ge kalpa mepa tenzo yina ya, ta rangi la tuki yo mare. Tene rangi nyamsa ling tuki yo mare te, ta mahompa la sunam ju tsu sabi ki che ta, tene jai tenzo la tongki ji tenri hu, te la, lo re la tsa re la, tenri che tu, tene te ge ngaranzu ichin rabu te kari che ki yo re se na, tene lo che ge ongda che na, lo che ge parchi tang jengi dopa, tene te kendo tartuk ongda se na, ta sunam tong i hi tsu sabi ge, tene menam jab, tene nangi yo re.
Later, when these teachings spread throughout Tibet, then it became the custom to pay respects and pay homage to them. And so people would take either the 103 volumes of the words of the Buddha, or they would take the 16 volumes of the extensive middle and concise sutras, or some of the sutras, or one of the volumes of the sutras, and they would place them on a shrine and put incense in front of it, offer flowers and pay respects to this this volume of the sutra. And so they would do this with either all of the Buddhist sutras, or with one volume, or with the 16 volumes of the texts on transcendent full knowing. In any case, they would pay respects to these volumes of the sutra in order to gather the accumulation of merit. And now it might seem like doing so is actually a kind of stupid thing to do, and that it is just something that you do out of blind faith. But actually, this is not something that you would just do out of blind faith. This actually is something that is beneficial and necessary to do. And the reason for that is that some people will take the volumes of these sutras and they will read them. And as they read them, they will consider the meaning of the words that they are reading. And in this way, they will do the practice of the sutra. So by reading the sutra, or by copying the sutra, and so forth, they will meditate upon the meaning of the sutra. They will come to know the words, and they will then also be able to gather the accumulations of merit. Then there are some people who have very bright intelligence, who have very bright full knowing, who will actually study the words of the sutra and study them and try to figure out what they mean and come to understand what is it that is the meaning of the words of the Buddha. And so this is another way that people study these in order to learn what it is and learn what the words mean, and then they can gain faith and gain respect and practice the meaning of the sutras in this way. And then there are also people who are not able to read or not able to study the sutras themselves. And what they do is they will hire people or they will ask people who know how to read to come to their house and then read the words of the sutra aloud, maybe once a year or once every few months, to read the words of the extensive, middle, and concise sutras aloud and do this. They may not be able to do it themselves, but they invite people to come and read it for them. And as they do this, then doing it once a year will dispel all the obstacles that may arise once in a year, or that may arise in that next year. And so that is one of the reasons why they do this. But also doing any of these, whether you read it or study or have someone else read the sutras, this all is a way to gain faith and gain devotion in the words of the Buddha. And it is through that that we can receive the power and the blessings of the words. And then by receiving that power and blessings of the words, we are able to practice it. And then we will be able to attain the state of a Buddha or a Bodhisattva ourselves. And so in this way, paying respects to the sutras, offering the sutras incense, offering them flowers, and so forth, any way that we pay respects for them is a way to accumulate merit and a way to generate the faith and devotion that we need.
Tene ta tejendo tanda chitang ta jelan den ni parchi ta chingi to pate ya chi che na mungdi rabo namba yore te ina ya te mungdi ma imba junsin kare re se na ta ngaran so la parchi ta chingi ba yung yore parchi ta chingi ba yung te tan jitin di no la chayin chimbo che ta nzamba chimbo che ya pala tene parchi ta chingi ba yung yore la di parchi ta chingi ba do pa te ke cher dol kan de go yore se na chu ton ji juma ta mulam ta bu to tong ni ji tan de che ta wa yin to na parchi ta chingi ba ten so do yore tene te tanda ra to thu gribe se na ngaran so to thu yo mare la te to ma thum na yo di ba cha da bo ta saben da bo pelwe ke cher to tene hera ji paru tu chbe kan do de na di ge tong ba ni je ta che ta wa yin to te ne chu ton ji juma to malam ta ba ta ba yin cher na tene parchi ta ching hi do bo ni ban da bo ta sima da bo tin de yo are.
Now, some people also recite the words of the sutra. And you might think that, again, it's just a case of blind faith to merely recite the words of the sutra. But this is not the case. It is not just blind faith to recite the words of the sutra, because reciting the words of the sutra has the power to reverse and block any difficulties and obstacles that we might encounter. And the reason that it has that power is that the difficulties and obstacles that we encounter come about because we have great attachment and great clinging to the confused appearances of our ordinary reality. And if we can realize that the appearances are just like dreams and illusions, and if we can realize the meaning of emptiness, this will reverse that habit of clinging, and it will also thus reverse the obstacles that we might experience. Now, will this do it right away? No, it will not do it right away. It cannot immediately, right away, stop all of the obstacles and bad occurrences that, and difficulties that might happen to us. However, it will sort of increase our latent tendencies and increase our understanding of the meaning of emptiness. It'll bring us to the point where we can come to realize that all phenomena are like illusions and dreams, and that that we can realize the meaning of emptiness. And so, in this way, reciting this is a very useful way to increase that tendency.
Tene ta te ta bu ge yom che sin jen rin du som ge tan da de so du ya ba te ta hiram nim bo tan ta ngaran so ge ya tene tan da ta te shalo ge ni sang ga che ya ba te re la tene te ya ta ngaran so du jun do tan ti che tang ge hiram nim bo se ge yo re yena ya du jun do sen la be je se du sam do se samdo sedu karisi karisi ten sapo chutomji tongbanyi ji ten jetawa yin tenpe kan do yin bichen na samdo segi yorela teni samdo te yang ta je nyamlin angking ki yin na hiraji paru tsimbi nimbo te la tuisamsi teni ti ten te gom jetawa yin te nyamsulin teni nangi yorela yang te tardo tuisam ta teni nyamlin ke go ni nyamlin chi matum na yang tene ngaranso samdo sedu tene tanda kahiga kandeng kutsoto yalaya nda tujundu nda tanda konaya nda tanda magonaya nda tene che tene tejendo samdo dokpasi tela dokpa jarne tene jengi to parchi dokpa ke chetola tene dopa jarne, tene chir dopar churji, mepar churji, hiwar churji si, tene lakpa datne, tangmo datne, tene nangi yore la, ta tiki jengi dopar chi hiwege, tene chir do, tene dopa yo nangi yore, tene te yang jesi na ketsabar yore. Yore te ina ya tenji onto siya na, tene tiki chutangji jumatong malam tabu tenpe ke tenyin bichir na, tene tsendi kingarchin parchi tangji jumatong malam tabu, yinbar tente ndoti kingone tenjen, tene tiki nekab ke garchin tang parchi chinoma te dopar ta dopu ki chito te nawa yin bichir na, tene te tendo sapo ta pen topo yore.
Sapto sine sapa sap.
Sapa.
And what condenses the essence of the extensive, middling, and concise sutras is this Heart Sutra that we are discussing today. And this Heart Sutra, of course, the name of it is the Heart Sutra of Transcendent Full Knowing, or Heart Sutra of Prajna Paramita, but is also known as the Profound Sutra. We often just call it the Profound Sutra. And this is because it is a very short sutra. It is only 22 verses long. It's only 25, excuse me. It is only 25 verses long. And these 25 verses are these 25 verses teach the profound meaning of emptiness, and that all phenomena are like dreams and illusions very clearly and profoundly. So it is called the Profound Sutra. And so often people will study this and practice it through listening and contemplation in order to increase their understanding of the Buddhist sutras. And some people are not able to do this, and they will just recite the words of the sutra. They recite it daily. They recite it whether they understand it or they recite it whether they don't understand it. And so they just recite the words of the sutra. And then there are also people who recite it in order to reverse obstacles. And so in order to reverse the obstacles, there are we recite it, and at the end we say may the obstacles be reversed, may they be pacified, may they be completely pacified. And as we say that, we clap our hands. And now this might seem a little bit strange, that we say may the obstacles be reversed and clap our hands and so forth. But actually, there's a reason for this, and the reason is that this sutra teaches this profound sutra teaches the profound meaning that all phenomena are emptiness and that they're like illusions and dreams. And so understanding this reverses the obstacles. And so we recite the obstacles, and we recite the Profound Sutra, and we say reverse all obstacles. And then clap our hands and so forth. And so because it teaches the meaning of emptiness clearly from the beginning, this Profound Sutra does have the power to reverse the temporary obstacles and problems that we may face.
Tene tejendo ta hyapten ta jengi parchi dopu ke cheto ta sonum ju tsu tsu pe cheto la ya samdo de hira nimbo de je parsiana samdo do segrela de do parsiba tene ndo ge nambal jorni tene te ya tanda jongang control lo dun ta ge som samdo do choga yore te ya ta je de do pasidu tene de ya lai pe de nyemon pe de chidaga de pumbu de ye ya ba tene ta te ya zo chenzi la de ge namba temba re de yena ya danje on de se na de se de lai pe de se na chidang chigen de long je de tene zegi ye do na ba do 다 되게 찐 대양롱제 때라 제힌 이동와 때라 차힌 hin나 되는 알아서 담비주 냠슬림부터 받아 되네 담비주 냠슬림부터 받던데 맞지 되네 다 되게 랭냠바서 받아 냠몽바 펠와라서 비조른도와 임비처나 찐 대양롱제 때 되네 라이프에 대세 라이프에 대 remote capsule number remote capsule tini zehin yidon da boje ke number la trigi warela tini tela laipe de dop ke chatula tini shira nim bundon da tini de yendo nyemo bde sena nyemo bde de ya ta zuch number la sena te tangaranso tramzi gembu number da boje triggerela tini te nyemo bate chitang dumnal chi epige jo tini te tabu che yimbe cherna tini gengo gepe namba ndaba tini te ya te zimpel ndo yimbe cherna te top ta damba tabu che triggerela tini te yendo pumbu de sumba te pumbu de rela pumbu de se ngaranzo zo chi pumbo te ngaranzo pumbo 다 저러한 드힌 두지 남기 품보된서 품부데세 되게 간데 제게 요아르세나 다티 렘지 인저네 되네 마음발라 dumhal지베게 조른로와인 비쳤나 품부데 다 데이터부게 파르치 도브치도라 품부데 데제 게힌 코프나 반다고제 조기 요아르 되네 대견들 데 예바딘 치다그데 데 당가란서 치우갑제 니티게 remote capsule che trapondabu tondabu ke nambala tege yorela tati dungal ke nambate tabu dopu ke chetala teni de yella teni te je de yibote toni ke ngondo hewege mipata toni ke ngondo hewege cheto hira nimbu ndonda teni de chetala teni parchi ta jingi dopu ke tap tende nangi yore tati lojira
그래서 니모베 되게
남바데 점시 기부 작화
tene somebody
somebody 품부데
tene
품부데 데 콤보라고 tene gen코라고 tene
okay. We can also there's also a way of reciting the sutra in what is called in a way to reverse demons, or you could also say exercise in English. So there is a way that Jamgon Kongtrul Lodro Tai described to recite this sutra as a way to exercise the demons. And so the demons, what we mean here, are primarily the 4 different demons, or the 4 maras, the 4 different maras that we talk about. And so here we recite the sutra in a particular way in order to reverse, or in order to exercise these demons. And so in general, we talk about these 4 different maras, or the 4 different demons. And the 4 different maras are the mara of the divine child, the mara of the aggregates, the mara of the afflictions, and the mara of the Lord of death. And so, I'll repeat these names: the mara of the divine child, the mara of the afflictions, the mara of the aggregates, and the mara of the Lord of death. And so, of these 4 maras, or demons, the first mara is the divine child. Now, what this means is that it's like, this is an example. These are all said as an examples. And so the divine child, the mara of the divine child, is like all the beautiful and attractive external appearances that we see. So there are all these beautiful and lovely external appearances that we see, and upon perceiving them, then we often feel attachment and cling to them. And through clinging and attachment to these external appearances, then this becomes the cause for the afflictions to arise. And so this is the mara of the divine child. And now when we do drawings of the divine child, we draw it as someone who is young and someone who is beautiful and attractive. So that is the first of the 4 Maras, the Mara of the Divine Child. The second Mara is the Mara of the afflictions or the kleshas. So the afflictions. And this Mara, when we draw this Mara, it is like a big, robust country fellow. And so, because this person has a lot of strength and a lot of power to be able to drag us along and pull us along. And so this is like the demon that pulls and drags us along. And so it's drawn in that form of like a big, old country bumpkin sort of drawing. And then, so that is the Mara of the afflictions. And then there is the third Mara, the Mara of the aggregates, or in Sanskrit, the skandhas, the aggregates. And so what the Mara of the aggregates is the 5 aggregates that make up our being. So we have the form aggregate and so forth. So the 5 aggregates, the form aggregate, feeling, conception, formation, and consciousness, these 5 aggregates of our being. And the reason they are like a demon or a Mara is that as we get older, they change. And so then they become the cause for the creation of suffering. And so in this way, they are they are like this demon that is drawn as, and when we draw it, it is drawn as sort of a thin, old person. So that is how it is drawn, as a thin, old person. And then the fourth Mara is the Mara of the Lord of Death, the demon of the Lord of Death. And the Mara of the Lord of Death is drawn as someone who is fierce and wrathful. Or wrathful, I can say in America. So someone who is fierce and wrathful. And so it is drawn in that way because it is something that is scary. And so that is the fourth of the Maras, the Mara of the Lord of Death. And so in this way we have these 4 different Maras, the divine child, the Mara of the afflictions, the Mara of the aggregates, the Mara of the Lord of Death. And these 4 aggregates, the way we can exercise, these 4 Maras can all be exercised by understanding the meaning of emptiness. And so by reading this sutra and coming to realize and coming to understand the meaning of emptiness, that can help us exercise these demons.
Tene tate hiraji parutu tsimbe ndota, hiraji parutu tsimbe nimbo, tatenzo ngaranzo nyamsi lentang kor mandrawa ya patenzo hubarela. Tene tanda tari kari chegre na hiraji parutu tsimbe ndoi, hiraji parutu tsimbe nimbo, tante ta ngaranzo hijab. Tate tupatan sombi go ne tenla pa tene rimbe ge nyamsalemba lenjurela tene te ta kata tenju ni ge na ne ta tambo kayo on de sit hubare tene ni ba tenju ge on de se na ta ti ge ndelvala ta jagar phopi yo de sembe tene pente tan nam chi sombe tenju ndelvayo yo arela tene pe de sembe tene tanda kepat nam chi sombe tenju yo arela tene tanda ngarange shoya de candide ni shogi yo are se na tene jono jesen taranatha inzebe ndelvaga tene shogre la tene teya te shogu bi junsen de candide se na tene cerdo tanda yom hiraji parutu tsimbate ta konti huba hendo ka parpa ka kholo tangbo tan parpa tan thamasom yebno ne ka kholo parbare kan kholo parbe ge tenden ge zo de kandere se na chutong ji dongni ge no bate tempare la tene te la tempare te yinaya te ge dongni de tentong te la te se tan kepa tan ji chechu mandrawa tenawa rela tene te kashi ge Rangtong se ta tongni chongba zor se ba je da kashi ge Shentong se tene te tongba te ya je bembu tongba nda ma yin ba Tene sarwa yi hijingo ta temba yimba. Temba te ta tawa ni temba re. Tawa ni bo te kap la kankolo parba te toni zor temba che ta kankolo thama te yi zor temba ta tinde ndeva re te. Yina yo ta yi kong tu ba yendola. Tene kankolo panda ni te che gije la ngal de panda bo che gije la tene ndre marong nda bo tende mare la. Te che gije la ndeva yi ba yimbe chena. Tene kankolo parbe gen do te ya tanda yentong namba la tar na yung ruwa yin pichen na tene Jonang ge Taranatha yentong namba la tar wari.
And so that was an explanation of the different ways that different sorts of practices that one can do with the different sutras of with the different sutras of transcendent full knowing. And now what comes next is the actual explanation of the sutra on the heart of transcendent full knowing, the transcendent or prajna paramita. And so in this sutra there is, so here in general this sutra is one that is included in the second turning of the wheel of Dharma. And so we need to study this sutra and to come to understand the meaning of this sutra. And so we can, in this way, we can practice it by, or we can we can practice it by listening and contemplating it. And as we do so, we will gradually come to an understanding of the meaning of this sutra and what it primarily teaches, which is the meaning of emptiness. And so this is primarily in terms of the sutra itself. Now, there is also the commentary on the sutra. There are many different commentaries on the sutra. And so there are many commentaries that were composed by all the great scholars in India. And there are many commentaries that were composed later by all the scholars in Tibet. And so of these two different types of commentaries, of these commentaries, there are primarily two different ways to comment upon it. And so this sutra is one that is included, as we indicated before, in the second of the three wheels of Dharma. So of the first, second, and third wheels of Dharma, this is included in the second wheel of Dharma, the wheel of no characteristics. And in commenting upon this, there are two different ways that it can be commented upon. One of these is to comment it in what is called the self-empty or Rangtong, self-empty way of commenting upon it. And this is primarily to, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. And so it primarily teaches, so the meaning of the sutra, because it is in the second wheel of Dharma, the meaning that the sutra teaches is primarily the meaning of emptiness, the meaning that all phenomena are empty. Now, in commenting upon this meaning that all phenomena are emptiness, there are primarily two different ways that we can comment upon this. And first is the Rangtong, the self-empty view, which primarily teaches the empty nature of all the phenomena clearly. And then the second way of teaching these is the other empty way, or in Tibetan, Shentong, literally other empty way of commenting upon this. And this teaches that the emptiness there is not just a material emptiness, but rather that the emptiness has the quality of wisdom and knowing as its essence. And so this is the other empty way of teaching it. And since this, and because there is no contradiction between the different turnings of the wheels of Dharma, as Rinpoche explained before, because there is no contradiction between them, even though the main topic that is taught in the middle wheel of Dharma, the middle wheel of Dharma is the emptiness. There are connections between that and the third wheel of Dharma, which teaches Buddha nature and so forth. And so because there are these connections, then it is very appropriate to comment upon this sutra of the middle turning of the wheel of Dharma in the style of the other empty way of commenting. And so for this reason, Rinpoche will be discussing the commentary by the the Venerable Jonangpa Taranatha.
Tene tateya certo kankolo pantani da tene Rangtong and Shentong tabaje yena tene tomba ni zo temba te galchimbore chutanji doni de mato na chutanji juma do malam tab ma he na tene tela zimba chimbo da hemba chimbo da tene noa tela parche ta jengi mangbo yungi warela tene junsin teacher na chutanji doni de tela papa te galchimbore chutanji doni de tela papa te galchimbore la doni de tela papa kapsala bemtong 다 뱀통세 그래 뱀통세나 살차 이히게 넘바 메나 테네 똥바테 페나 론다보제 뱀본다보제 똥바레 마토 텔라 옌텐중게 자완다보다 옌텐중게 존다보 가야 요마레라 테 똥바 똥중레 똥바 똥중이나 텔 펜투시로 요마 텔 옌텐시로 페야 요마 테네 티추tonji 똥니 텔라 가레레세나 텐데 옌텐 메바 텐데 마레 옌텐 페야 예바 yentin pelwala tini sanji jamdin deji kusumtuki yentin chense chenpa tsewa nuba tin chense nusumji yentin jung zawati tini ti tombani ji ngondo tombani te ngondo yepati yepala yepar tengu gi yorela tini tela teni oma yenton se kankolo tame gombata tinde ten na yorela tini te ni te nika Oma Rangtong yo meto marunga, Oma Shentong yo meto marunga, teni nyamdo, tene tate tombo sosol klap jang ni hiche, teni nyamdo jar, teni nyamli namgugi ware.
And so both the self-empty and the other empty, both the middle wheel of Dharma and the third wheel of Dharma are very important. And the reason they are important, the reason it is important that we primarily teach the meaning of emptiness is that we often have that if we do not realize the meaning of emptiness, then we have a great holding and great grasping for all the appearances of samsara. If we do not realize them to be emptiness and do not realize them to be illusions and dreams, then we grasp and hold at them, and this creates suffering. And so it is important to realize that they are in their nature emptiness. And yet that emptiness is not just a material emptiness. It is not just an emptiness that is nothingness. If it were just a material emptiness, then it would be like a corpse. It would be like matter that wouldn't have any qualities in it. It would not be able to produce all of the qualities. It would not be able to produce all of the Buddha's different it would not be the root of all the Buddha's qualities. It would not be able to create all of the Buddha's qualities. But it is not like that, because this wisdom has the aspect of being clear, this emptiness has the aspect of being clear wisdom. And because it does have that aspect of clear wisdom, then it is something that can produce all of the qualities of the Buddha. It is something that can produce the qualities of knowledge, love, and power that are inherent in the Buddha. And so these are qualities that are inherent in the emptiness. They are a part of the emptiness, and we need to recognize that these are something that exist as something that exists. We need to recognize them as truly exist, as being there as qualities of that emptiness. And so for that reason, it is important to study the teachings of the third turning of the wheel of Dharma, which primarily teach that primarily teach the Buddha nature that is that has all the inherent qualities. And so for this reason, it is very important to study both the self-empty and the other way, and to first study them individually and to understand what they are individually. So we understand both the self-empty and the other empty.
Tene ta teya nika sosola shigubata tela ichi gupa tene te nyom de jar gupa tene te kapka lam khahi Rangtong ga yore tela tepa to mugu chungchia yore khahi yentong la tepa to mugu chungchia yore perna ngaranso khala ji zona tene ta tela khala ga nando tene 다 처마 장바 지 철주 사나 힘을 요말 다 될 가리고 그래서는 넘로 디나나 차다 디나나 스페다 드니 강가 냠듯이나 드니 좋아해봐 라디니 주볼라 펜바 차상 용기 와려라 드니 텔라야 다 소수 뭐바 가힐 넘mom보 로그여 가힐 스페맘보 답고여 가힐라 차맘보 답고요. 티티 소소 뭐바 소소요. 베데 옌도 나란소 우마 랑동도 옌동 답부지네야. 가히데 지살차이 히게 남바데나. 데라 데바도 뭐바 총지야. 가히 주동지 동니도 되나. 데라 데바도 뭐고 총지야. 요아렐라. 티니 데게 데 대조 온드세나. 티니 베나. 티니 나란소 냠슬렘베가슬라 베 고바동 펜토 쳔보 임베체나 티니 렌제도 자르네 냠슬렌제데 베갈 쳔보레.
And so we need to practice and study these individually, and we also need to practice them together. It is important that we do this, and it is important that we have both the self-empty and the other empty, and that we know both of them. And the reason for this is, like, if we give an example, for example, if we take food and we have vegetables, and we could just eat plain vegetables, but just eating plain vegetables is really not all that tasty in and of itself. What really makes the vegetables tasty is if you add a little bit of oil, and then you add a little bit of chili, and then you add a little bit of salt, and then you have something that's really quite tasty. And so there are different people who have different sorts of inclinations. And so some people are more inclined to put more oil. Some people are inclined to put more chili. Some people are more inclined to put more salt. And so in this way, there are the different sorts of inclinations. And so in the same way, some people are more inclined to the self-empty view, that all things are emptiness, and to come to understand that all things are emptiness. And when they read and they understand this, then they generate faith and devotion. And some people feel more faith and devotion when they read the teachings of the other empty, that we have the clear wisdom aspect of these. And so some people feel great faith and devotion of feeling these. But both of these are necessary and important. We need to practice and study both of them. We need to have both of them. And we can each individually have more faith in that which we're more inclined in. But it is important that we actually practice both of them together.
Tene ta trinke chudin tesam shugiyana tene ta chitanga ngaranga hi goju hiranin bindo de mahi bache tene hi mugub samdo dopa japtan rapotede hi son samne tene gumba mansang roche kariri sena tene tela tene jai tende ta jai zo hirak go ni nyams lendan yorela te yinda tepa to mu go ni nyams lendan yapa imbichna ti lojin ro hina pento do sambada ma jawla tene te ta to
And so we will leave our Dharma session here for this morning. And this morning, of course, our primary topic is the Heart Sutra on Transcendent Full Knowing, and we didn't really get to the explanation of it yet, but this doesn't mean that there wasn't a point for describing all of what Rinpoche has described. And this is because there are many different ways to come to understand and to come to practice the sutra. And so some people practice it more through full knowing, through prajna. And some people will practice it more through faith and devotion. And so there are many different ways of practicing it. And so Rinpoche thought that it would be very important to explain these different ways to give you a more full understanding of the different ways that you can practice and understand this sutra. And so now we will do a little bit of meditation.
da